Today's podcast is brought to us by Patreon supporter Greg Smerdell. If you'd like to learn how you can support the podcast through a small, recurring monthly donation, check out schooloflaughs.com/PATREON. And we also have another sponsor.
Hi, this is Leslie Norris Townsend, and I want to invite you to be a part of the Clean Comedy Challenge 2017 in Pasadena, California, and in Chicago, Illinois. This is our 7th year for this one-of-a-kind conference that includes 3 days of learning, writing, performing, and hanging with the pros in the comedy business. The Clean Comedy Challenge invites comedians at all levels to have a chance to work on a real comedy stage or to fill out an ambition on their bucket list just to be a part of the comedy business. Go to cleancomedychallenge.com for more details. When you register, make sure you mention the School of Laughs podcast so I know where you came from. Be a part of the comedy train. Woo-woo!
Welcome to the School of Laughs podcast, brought to you by schooloflaughs.com. Whether you're an aspiring comedian, a part-time pro, or a speaker who wants to become funnier, this is the podcast for you. We'll break down tools, tips, and techniques to help you get bigger, better, and more bookable. And now, here's the show.
Welcome to the podcast. This is Rick Roberts, and thanks again to our sponsors, the Clean Comedy Challenge. You definitely want to take advantage of that. All that great resource of comedic knowledge in one place for a couple of days with specific feedback. Who wouldn't want that? And thanks again to Greg Smerdell for supporting us through Patreon, which is just a monthly kind of a tip jar for the podcast. If you enjoy it and you like to offset some of the costs, for as little as $5 or $6 a month, you can do that. At the $7 a month level or more, you actually get to participate in a lot of cool things, including Club 52, which is a weekly email designed to help you take your career further faster. And you get to hang out once a month on a conference call online. We use the Zoom platform. We just did that last week. So if you're a member of Club 52 and you missed it, you can pick that up at the patreon.com website and download the recorded call so you don't miss anything that way. So very cool. One thing I forget to mention pretty often is that we have an insider tip sheet. And if you're not a member of that email list, you want to get on that ASAP. I include different blog posts. Sometimes I don't post these on the actual schooloflaughs.com site, so they're kind of exclusive. And also each month when that comes out, you get 15 to 20 stories online, links to different stories online all about stand-up comedy, the profession, the business of it, and a lot of good stuff going on there. So the insider tip sheet is free. You can just send an email to schooloflaughs@gmail.com and put insider tip sheet subscribe in the subject line, and you'll be all signed up. Hey, today we've got a great podcast episode with a couple of my current students. Actually, we just wrapped up the writing class last week, and a couple guys stuck around afterwards, picked my brain. They're just beginning comedy, very first steps of comedy, and they asked some great questions, and I thought, you know what? When they're asking questions, these may be questions you're asking yourself too, and you wish you had somebody to answer them. Well, I answered them, gave my take anyway, and we're going to cover that here in a second. All kinds of great questions these two guys gave me. It's Jason Paget and Clark Davis, and they asked me specifically about tips for developing characters in your set, especially when they're real people, maybe your family members. How far do you go with the descriptions and the honesty of it? How much room do you have to exaggerate? We talk about how much new jokes you should put, or how many new jokes you should put in your set each week, and when you should think about setting them to the side. I talk about the benefit of just getting down a 3 to 5 minute set initially and working on that as a first-timer's goal. All kinds of great stuff. What to do when you have a bad set, what the good thing about a bad set is, why new jokes sometimes get the biggest laughs, and how to find success in the struggle of stand-up comedy. All that, plus a good goal for your first year in stand-up coming up right now. Let's get to the interview with Jason Paget and Clark Davis, two of my current School of Laughs students. Welcome back to the School of Laughs podcast. Rick Roberts here. Today I'm with a couple of students after a writing class, and they had a few questions. I thought, hey, if I'm going to answer them for them, probably somebody else out there has the same question. So we'll jump right into it. First off, tell us your name, a little bit about yourself, maybe why you took the class, and then the question.
My name is Jason Paget, and I took the class because I'm interested in pursuing stand-up comedy, see what's going to happen with it. I've always been interested in it, and so I found your class online, so I was like, hey, I'm moving to Nashville, so let me just go ahead and take it.
Oh, cool.
So that's what happened with that one.
Good deal. Good deal. And what's on the back of your mind right now after going through the writing class and kind of getting a little into it?
Yeah. I feel like my writing is going to be a lot of like character bases about people in my life. Like for one, my dad is going to be a huge part of it just because he's a character in himself. And I just want to know, like, when I go to develop the characters, like what kind of things do I pull from and emphasize? Like, for one thing, he has this really bad twitching thing he does all the time. Like, he's always twitching. And so he's almost got like body Tourette's. So it's like, but it's just funny how he does it. And so I just want to know, like, how do you build a strong character by taking those, I guess, character flaws that they have?
Yeah, different tics and things they have that make them who they are. Well, I think just the way you describe it up front lets them know that you're not making fun of them. I'm just telling you how this guy is.
Yeah.
So saying he's got like body Tourette's is a good way of being funny about it. And maybe even you could write your own clinical term for it. Like Skeletourette's or something like that, or something. Well, it could be funny, like. He would start off with mild Tourette's, and that came from like his knees and his hips.
Yeah.
But it worked his way up the body. You know, you could just make up some kind of thing to help the audience visualize. So when he starts, really freaking out with everything above his shoulders and stuff, it's like that's when you knew you were in trouble.
Yeah.
And then
I see.
Yeah, and I would just and then give some examples of the different levels. So you could, there's another 3 jokes you can write right there. Is like, so when it was mild, it would start from down here. Something like this would happen. But then you escalate it a little bit.
Okay.
And then you might say too, like, just put yourself. So I don't know your dad, so I would just start asking questions. I would have a friend ask you questions about your dad.
Okay.
So like, would he treat everybody in the family the same way with this, or did he dial it back for your mom, or do you have sisters or anything?
I have a sister, yeah.
So would he treat her differently, and if so, how would it manifest in conversation with her?
It was always just a thing of stress. But I know you probably asked me rhetorically, but
no, I want to know. Like,
he would kind of. It was just whenever it would flare up whenever he would kind of get stressed out, and so I was usually a huge stressor of that because I had ADHD, and so I still do. But there would be a lot of things that I would not complete or do the right way, or forget that he told me what to do, and so he would just. And it's very hard trying to take him seriously when he's yelling at me and he's like twitching and stuff. So
that's a good place to throw in a comparison. Like looking at him, he was like blank, blank, blank. So throw in a comparison of who he looks like so people can dial that in.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you were a cause of a lot of that stress.
Yeah.
So we should know some of those stories behind and starting young all the way up to even nowadays, what stresses them out.
Okay.
Like the parts that have never changed.
Yeah.
Maybe the parts that have gotten better, but you got 2 different things you can talk about right there.
Well, I do know that I live with him right now, so there's a lot of funny things that, like, I have 2 little brothers. One he's a special needs kid, and then the other one, he's just a normal 12-year-old. And the normal 12-year-old, like, I look at and I'm just like, dude, let me try to, like, just the other day I was trying to help him navigate. Because he's running his mouth at my dad and it's making my dad angry. And I'm like, no, dude, don't do that. Like, he's at level 3 twitching, like what we just talked about.
Right.
It's like, you don't want to know what's coming next, So there's a lot of those. It's just funny because I think about that, like, wow, dude, it's like, I was in your spot at one time. Like, I know what I'm talking about. So
yeah. No, that's cool. So you can put yourself in the position of like a coach or a referee or something like that. Saying, So look, time out for us. Let me go. This is how you deal with the situation. Then you bring him back in or whatever.
Yeah.
So you're helping your dad, but you're also helping the kid.
Yeah.
And then that defines you to the audience a little bit. Like, you are a guy who likes to help. Mm-hmm. You agitate some people and cause some trouble, but you're also trying to solve it.
Yeah.
So that gives them a little glimpse into who you are.
Okay, that's really cool. I like that.
Yeah, and then I would just explore it, man. Use some real examples if the audience is comfortable with real examples. If they're too real, they're not comfortable, you can dial it back to something more comical. But the more you can make it a visual and like a real story, then a million jokes can come out of that. And then your dad could really pop back into any situation that you talk about on stage and give his 2 cents with all you have to do is move the shoulders or do the tick and we know who he is.
Okay, yeah.
So it'd be something like, or as my dad would say, you start doing the old, oh, yeah.
And it's really funny when you look at him and he starts thinking and he's just like,
You can see it building up in his body.
Yeah, it just kind of like builds up, and then he finally finishes it because he's a very introverted person. I'm extrovert, which is funny in its own sense because he doesn't really say what he's thinking, and I tend to oversay sometimes.
You're like the odd couple.
Yeah, yeah, really, yeah, very much so. So, but it's just the twitching thing. It's always been funny to watch him just kind of get into it.
Yeah, I mean, just watching now, I would describe him as like an emotional volcano. Like, you know, you see it building up, you see the smoke coming out of his ears, and eventually the lava comes spewing out.
Yeah.
And you're trying to like calm your little brother down before it gets to the lava stage.
Yes, exactly.
You know, like around your house, there's like 16 small islands just because of your dad's eruptions, you know. You deal that with the fallout and the ash. There's no vegetation. I mean, you can go all deep into it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'll make note of all that.
Yeah, it's good stuff. All right, I got another student here.
My name is Clark Davis. I've just found a lot in my spare time. I would try to watch, every episode of comedy shows, watch comedy stand-up specials all the time, and I've always considered myself kind of funny in conversation, and I enjoy making people laugh, and I never had a good time writing jokes. Like I would try and I would just be like, these are garbage. I can't figure it out. And maybe I should take a writing class. And so I just Googled it and there you were in Nashville. And I tell you, after one class, it just like something broke and it was just, you gave me some setups to work with. And I thought, well, I can bounce off this like I would in a conversation. And then, I can just write these standalone jokes that these other people didn't know the setups. And it's great. So I'd like to pursue this long term if possible. Cool. If it keeps on working out.
Yeah, excellent. And you've turned in some great work, so it's been fun for me on this end.
Thank you.
It's not always the case. Sometimes you get some jokes back.
Oh,
You're
yeah.
like,
I got to give feedback to this, man.
So you should pursue songwriting.
Yeah. None of these are funny.
This just made me cry and want to drink a beer, so maybe you should be a country star. So what's, I mean, you can have multiple questions, but what's the top of your mind as far as moving forward?
Trying to hit the ground running. I've attended some open mic nights. I've performed at a few, and I'm starting to hit that where I'm going to go to the same ones again and try to perform again. I was going to ask, how often do you need to rotate out or in new jokes? Is it acceptable or applauded to do the same 5 minutes, even if it's working? Or, how often do you switch out your jokes? How often do you do new material at different comedy clubs and with different groups? Yeah,
so it always feels weird going back to the same place the next week. You feel like everybody in the audience is the exact same audience that was there the previous week. There's just that natural feel of that. And of course, some of the comics will have been there the previous week, so you feel like, oh, I got to make these guys laugh a different way. But in reality, you do want to keep working on jokes until you get them to where they're super consistent. And if you can make them consistently get laughs, even with people who have seen the jokes before, you've got a really strong bit going there.
Sure.
So the first thing I would think about is just like, is this joke the best it can be now? And if it is, maybe you set that aside and work something else in there to kind of keep it fresh for you and for the audience. And also identifying those jokes that are working for maybe the first time you step into a new open mic, you want to bring those tried and true jokes back to kind of establish that you're funny at that particular venue in front of those, because there'll be some comics that don't cross-pollinate all the different open mics here in town. So you take the best stuff from the previous and you work it into the new club or the new open mic. In the business class, I talk specifically about when you get your first chance to go to the comedy club to Zanies and get on stage. I would wait till you feel like you're way over ready, and then you go in there with your tried and true stuff that's worked the past 6 or 8 months, solid. So when you go in there and you hit the ball out of the park doing a 3 or 4 minute set, and they have you come back, then you can show them a different 3 or 4 minute set because you've got some time developed. If you come back in a few weeks and do the exact same set at the club, it's not going to be a horrible thing, as long as it gets a good reaction the second time.
Sure.
But it's always nice to show them a little something different every time. So subconsciously they're thinking, well, this guy's been here 3 times this year. He's done a different 5 minutes every time. He could probably MC. I've seen 15 different minutes that works. So but you don't get that right off the bat. You have to get those tight in the open mic. So I'd be working on 3 to 5 minute sets constantly until you got it tight. And then that's the one chunk that you can put into your A-room set. When you go to a comedy club or do an open mic at one.
Sure.
Other than that, and I would long term want to keep working in new material. There's always going to be material in your set that's not as strong as the other. And it, and sometimes on a good night, everything's going to work. And then on the really, really hard nights, only your best jokes will work. And those when you know that these are my top jokes. And the spotlight will really shine on those jokes that aren't getting a laugh in a really tough night. And may draw attention to them that you haven't even noticed before. Like, these usually get a laugh, but on a really hard crowd, they didn't. Well, only your best jokes work on a hard night.
Plus at that point.
Yeah, so maybe you want to pull those back out. You thought they were finished, but you go back and work them up to where they're super solid, even in front of the toughest shows. But anytime you're adding the new stuff in, it's going to benefit you. If you just look at the open mic as an experiment, and you're not attached to getting the adoration from the crowd, you're just looking for where the laughs are, then every set it's going to be a winning situation because you're getting results from the experiment that you can fix later. You either got the positive results of laughter, you got the dead silence where you didn't, and that's where I need to go work on. So if you're paying attention to it just from that, it really takes all the pressure off of being the favorite comic that night, which is the thing we all gravitate to when we first start.
Yeah.
I did. I mean, I wanted to be the funniest guy every time I went up, so I held on to my best jokes for too long. I should have been way more willing early on to go up there and just fail miserably, but try out a big chunk of stuff at a time. So, yeah. So even now for me, there's some places I'll go where they'll give me 20 minutes, and it's not a comedy club, but it's got that expectation of the laughs. And I just go in there and I do 2 jokes up front that I know are funny. I say, okay, I'm an open micer just like everybody else here. These are new jokes, so let the expectations lie right there, and let's find out, are they funny or not? Yeah,
and I guess the tried and true jokes can be kind of the litmus test of the room, because like you said, if you have a really dead room and you do your best joke and it's like, then you can tell a new joke and it might still be good, but nobody really responded. But if they laugh a whole lot at the beginning, you're like, okay, this should be a pretty sensitive response.
Yeah, and on the same lines, you do want to do jokes enough to where you know what the average response is. You might do it one night and it kills, and you think, okay, put it in the good notebook. It's this is tried and true, but it was just magic that night, or the crowd was super easy that night. The other thing you'll notice, if you record stuff, typically the first time you do a new joke right, the laugh you get from that is going to be the biggest laugh you hear in your entire show, even against your tried and true stuff. And I've always wondered if that's actually the truth or it's just the way you internalize it as a comic, because you're like, oh, this worked finally, it killed. But a lot of times it's because you delivered it, you really want it to work, so you're delivering it the way it should work, and you really focused on it, and it stands out. Then you kind of coast on your tried and true stuff, and you're doing it the way you kind of remember doing it, and it doesn't pop as much.
Yeah.
But most comics, especially experienced comics, will tell you sometimes the newest joke is the biggest laugh they have. And then that's reassuring and reaffirming that I should be writing new material.
Absolutely. I've taken the habit of, so far, recording the sets that I do, and I'll realize from stage, I'll think maybe that joke wasn't very good, I didn't even really get a laugh, but the recording will show there was a laugh, I just didn't hear it, or it was far back in the room, or, so having that audience member perspective and reviewing it later, I have found to be helpful. I may eventually run out of space, to store all these, but it's helping so far.
No, and that's a good point too. Is a lot of times you're so involved on stage with other things. Like, I mean, you're looking around, the wait staff's too loud over here, like somebody's walking out this door. You're not really tuned into the true laughs. And a lot of times, whatever you thought of the show, it's probably the opposite. Like, like I've had shows where I thought I killed it, and I go back and listen the next day, especially when I first started, because I would record VHS, man.
Yep.
It was like having to rewind that thing or fast forward, and you see me like staring at the crowd like, where's the laughs? But other times where I thought I did horrible, I just wasn't hearing the laughs that were there. There were laughs. And sometimes the room's not set up to where you hear them very well. So those recordings are priceless. And lucky for me, there's no device in my house that will play my beginning recordings. I've still got I've got a shoebox full of actual cassettes, and I'm like, I know those are going to be brutal, but one day I'm going to bust them out and listen to them again.
Maybe find some grade A jokes that you've forgotten about.
You know what? I'm going to put this out there right now. I'm going to do one podcast where I bring out some really old tapes.
There you go.
And
don't preview them. Just
pull them out, play them, and react to them. And because I started from nothing too, just like you guys are doing right here, starting from the very beginning. And without the brutal times, there's no good times, And it's every success you have is because of some struggle. So when you're struggling, don't stress out about it too much. If you're in the struggle forever, you're probably doing something wrong. But if the struggle's there and you're getting some success, then there's some struggle. That's good, because you're gonna all that. It's like the struggle is a sandpaper, and then 5 years later, like, look how smooth this thing is now. It's like a Pinewood Derby car. It's like, I got this thing down to a toothpick size. I've got all the struggle off of this chunk of wood. But yeah, that's the fun of it, I think, is just bringing in the new, see if it's as strong as the old. And really, another way to look at it is seeing if your new material can take the place of a tried and true thing. Like, make it audition to get into your act.
Yeah.
Is this good? Is this as good as the stuff I'm thinking is my tried and true? If it is, it's in. If it's not, I'm going to keep working on it till it is.
For like guys like us that are just starting out, you know, I know you're really big on goals. Like what would be a realistic way to set up our goals? Like, you know, okay, in 6 months or starting out, I'm going to write at least a 5-minute set and then try to work those out at open mic nights. I'm going to do 10 open mic nights, and then by like a year from now, I want to be at Zany's or something like that. Like how would you go about setting your goals?
Yeah, it's a good question and it's going to be different for everybody. But if it was me and I was just starting out, just like you guys here in Nashville, to be specific, I would make sure I was getting on stage at least 2 times a week.
Mm-hmm.
You know, more if I could, if it works with the schedule, and only if during those 2 times I'm really focused on the material or some aspect, you know, like we talked earlier about having a goal within that set of new material or paying attention to your delivery or what have you. And then before I went back the next week to those same places, I would listen back. I would tweak the jokes that didn't work. I'd see if I could add something funnier to the jokes that do work. And the first goal I think I would shoot for, you can't particularly put a time limit on it, but I'd be working towards my first solid 5-minute set.
Okay.
If it takes you 100 open mics to get there, it takes you 100. If it takes 50, it takes 50. But when you have a solid chunk of at least 5 minutes, you can do something with that. Then you have a 5-minute tape that you can record. I say tape, but 5-minute video.
Yeah.
And by putting that 5-minute video on Facebook or your website, if you go that far yet, then you might get some traction with getting some open mic spots in a different town that haven't seen you yet. You might call up somebody in Huntsville, say, I'm coming through town. Can I do 5 minutes? They're like, you got 5 minutes? Say, I do. I've got a video of it. You want to check it out? If you don't think it's good, then tell me. I'll work on it. But having 5 minutes, there's at least a little sample of what you can do. And how fast you get there just depends on how well you write and how well you perform on stage and pay attention to what you're doing with it. So that'd be one. You might want to try, we talk about writing and performing, but also attending. Like you could have a goal of how many shows you want to pay and go see at Zany's, or anywhere. But since Zany's is a club in town, I want to make sure once a month I go see a professional show, so that you can be in the environment that you eventually want to be in. Mm-hmm. And you can kind of take, subconsciously you're noticing how fast the laughs are coming, how funny the jokes are, how strong the misdirection is. How relentless the comics are on stage, how quick they get to their first laugh, how they finish the show, how the show builds, all those things. And the whole time you're doing that, even though you're not on stage, the folks that are running the door at Zany's or the waitresses or the staff, you become a familiar face. You don't have to tell them you're doing comedy yet. Mm. But when you finally get your 5 or 7 minutes that's killing everywhere you go at these open mics and you think you're ready for Zany's, then when you pop in or you sign up or you get your stage time, you're not a total stranger. And they're like, oh, we've seen this dude before. And if you do well, they're going to be pulling for you. So, one of the big problems people have trying to get into comedy clubs is the club won't take your phone calls. They don't know who you are. Yeah. For one. And then if you do get through and they want to see something online, they don't have it. So if it takes a year, it sounds like a long time. But if it takes a year to get a solid 5 minutes in the bank and on video and all that, that's way better than trying to get in there 3 months from now with 2 minutes, then eating it and then never getting back on stage.
Now, is there a professional, like when it comes to shooting your video, you don't want to put like a cell phone video up there, do you? Like your best 5 minutes, would you want to maybe see if someone has like a good HD camera?
Any video with good sound. Yeah. The sound's even more important than the video.
That was my next question.
Is going to be more beneficial than no video at all. Yeah. And I actually have a podcast coming up pretty soon with the guy who does video, and he's going to give some specific tips. So I'll make sure I let you know when that one comes out. Sure. The great thing now with these 4K videos coming out, these cameras, all the 1080p stuff's going down like $129. Yeah. And that's still really good.
Yeah. You could probably even do like a good like GoPro too. As long as you have like a lavalier mic. Yeah. Yeah, that I could say the word.
Yeah. Well, I'll give you one quick and dirty tip as far as getting decent audio and sound from a 1080p recording device is to set it up in the room where it gets a good mix of the speaker, the PA coming out one side, and the audience on the other. That way you've got it kind of naturally mixed. Okay. If you have it too close to the speaker, you're not going to hear the audience. If you have it too close to the audience, you might not hear you coming through the microphone. But if you go on the club once a month for the next 10 months, you're going to kind of see where the sweet spot is in the room. You're going to see where other comedians are setting up their cameras, and you'll know where to do it.
Oh.
Boom goes the dynamite.
That's right.
Speaking of stealing, I had another question.
Yeah.
The last thing I want to do is joke thievery. If I ever write a joke and hear anyone else do it, it's immediately trash ban. But I did kind of think of a joke about, I was thinking about cover bands, and I was like, there's not really a market for like cover comedians, and I was going to start doing maybe a bit about that where I'd sort of impersonate a comedian or two, sort of in light of itself. But I'm like, if I say a comedian's catchphrase, if I get up and say get her done or no respect at all, am I stealing? Is that kind of like just don't even go there? Or
That's a good question.
Very good question.
First thing, there's been a lot of comics that have done that premise, so.
Oh, okay. Well, then.
So there you go.
Gone.
So you're on
C.1.
So you're on the right track because you're thinking like a comedian. But yeah, bands can get up and do other band song, and it's totally people sing along to it. And there's, but comics, you do that once and you're labeled a hack forever. That's kind of the premise, that they go off of. And then in general, even if you're an impression comic, for example, and you're doing line for line, something that Rodney Dangerfield did, but the other comics would look at you, which doesn't really matter because the other comics aren't paying you.
Yeah.
But they may be the ones inviting you to other gigs that might pay. So it's something to keep in the back of your mind, but not the forefront. It's an easy laugh if you're already doing material that gets a laugh from a comedian who gets a laugh. So I get flack sometime. I do a Barney Fife impression. And so when I first started doing that, there was other comedians like, you're being another funny person on stage. It's an easy laugh. I'm like, well, if you can do it like I can do it, you do it. So,
and to your credit, you sort of have the same look anyways. It's like you got more than just like, I can do the voice.
I know. It's I got a quick joke about that. So my wife always wanted to marry a George Clooney impersonator. Instead, she got Bernard P5. Deputy Mayberry. And the other joke is, well, there's only a few of us Fifes, but there's a whole lot of goobers out there. So there you go.
Nice.
But yeah, it's so I took flack from some comics, but a lot of the club managers and stuff like, man, that's one of your strongest bits. Don't let the other comics talk you out of doing it. And then over the years, as I've gotten older, I do look a little bit more like him. And there's some decent paying gigs out there that I go where I'm not doing my stand-up. I'm just walking around as Barney Fife. I mean, it's a weird thing.
Yeah.
It's a good question, but,
Yeah, probably.
It's an easier laugh if you're doing a tried and true joke from another comic, even if you're just doing a tribute to him.
Right, yeah. No, that's a good word. If you're going to try and do it, at least put original material in that character.
Yeah. Which, that's kind of fun to step out of who you are and write for somebody else anyway.
I like Mike
Birbiglia.
Yes, and
you like hard to pronounce comedians.
Yes, and Kevin Hart is another one where they
the hardest name of all time.
Yeah.
No, that one's not hard to say, but
Kevin's pretty difficult.
Yeah.
2 whole syllables.
Yep. I made it through.
With 1 syllable.
I did it.
Here comes.
I did it. But no, like the way they tell their jokes is there's very story oriented, and that's the style that I would love to get into because I like to. I mean, I've wrote down a ton of stuff that happened to me as a kid and as in college, and then even as an adult that I know that when I was in this situation, it was miserable, but it was funny.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like I want to bring that to the stage. And I want to bring that as like introduce these people to these characters in my life that have developed me to be who I am, and the situations that have developed me to be who I am. So like these other guys that are topic comics, I think I'm more of like that storyteller of like, this is what my life has been like.
Right.
And I want you to experience Kevin Hart did it in his special Laugh at My Pain, where he talked about his cocaine addict dad and all that stuff, and it was just so funny. But it was probably a huge struggle for him.
Yeah.
My dad's not a cocaine addict, but I'm just saying that there's.
Are you trying to say your dad is Kevin Hart?
No.
Okay.
no, that'd be really weird.
Big misdirection.
Yeah. So it's just like being able to develop those characters and
tell those stories.
That's why I'm excited about the conference, is because the CCA conference that we're going to have is because of that one.
There's a session on taking your real life and killing with it on stage.
And killing with the stories. I'm really excited about that because I want to be able to introduce people to my punchlines.
Well,
I guess it's the best way to say it.
Yeah, that's good. And what I would do too, and you could even do this as well, is almost like just take dictation in some of your favorite comics. Like Birbiglia has a lot of jokes.
Yeah.
Because he tells stories, he's very good at hiding where those punchlines are.
Yes.
To the non-comedy fan, they're just like, this guy's a funny storyteller.
Yeah.
But he's a comedian too.
Yeah, yeah.
He was a comedian first, and that's why his stories are so strong. But I would sit down and just write down 3 or 4, maybe 5 minutes, the first 5 minutes of one of his CDs, any of his stories, and just write down, circle when he gets a laugh around that word, then go through and then come back at all those circled points and see what technique he used to get a laugh.
I see. Okay, yeah,
Because he's using techniques throughout.
Yeah.
And that's why he's a lot of comics think he's brilliant because he's telling stories. He's not really writing jokes. He is. You just don't realize he is.
Yeah.
They're there. And by kind of writing it out, you'll kind of see how often they're there.
Yeah.
And I think it should have some light bulb moments for you as far as telling your own stories. Like, okay, if I want to be at least as funny as Mike Birbiglia as far as laughs per minute, all the other things are variables, but at least laughs per minute wise, I need to at least every 3 sentences have a twist or a turn or a laugh. And you'll see how fast he's getting to him. And that'd be a great goal to strive for as often as he is.
Yeah.
And if your stories are as interesting as his and all those other things, then everything else will come along with it. But it might be good to do actually in this class next time I teach it, is put up a comic everybody assumes is just a storyteller. Yeah. And just show, well, this is this technique we just talked about. Yeah. And just show like.
Well, now that you're saying that, I'm kind of thinking of some of the jokes that he talks about, like the one where he talks about the scrambler and the hiring the 16-year-old pothead to run
the
it.
fair.
Yeah, and that's misdirection because you're thinking like, I'm going to hire someone who's really well qualified to run this route. Right. But no, we're gonna.
The qualifications are just, can you show up?
Yeah.
Well, I just listened to had satellite radio on the rental car last week, and they were doing the story about his first kiss, like at the school dance or whatever.
That's my favorite. What
and he does a great job at telling the story, putting the jokes in, and then kind of doing an aside, like explaining more about the moment, and then coming back to the moment and then moving on to the next.
He builds that tension. And and you're kind of waiting, and then he brings in another story to kind of like fill you in on backstory, but you're still waiting to hear what happened with the kiss or whatever, the beginning of almost the climax of a story, and then
and he's if you broke down some of these more recent specials he's had, and he's almost writing more like it's a show, as opposed to a joke or a comedy set. So he has all those moments and those different storylines that crisscross and collide and come back around. Yeah. And so that's another thing you can do is pick up a screenwriting book and just look at some of the tactics they use and apply those to your stand-up, because that's all structure. It's all going to be a good backbone of your show.
I mean, I'm not going to lie. His the one we're talking about, my girlfriend's boyfriend, like at the end it made me like cry, because he was talking about how he met his wife, and like just it was so like emotional, and it was just so like vulnerable, and it was just like, that's what I want to do. I want to be able to tell people my story and touch them on an emotional level, and not like just get up there and just, I want them to feel good about their lives and everything, by like showing them how I've come through mine,
Yeah, no, that's super.
And so that's kind of where I'm at.
No, that's great. I mean, every comedian has a different angle on it. The older I get, the more I think if you have a show that has an impact as well as the funny, then it plays to everybody, and you've actually helped people on the side. If you just get up and tell jokes, that's still great, because there's people that just need to laugh. They don't need to think. Yeah. So you've always going to have both. There's going to be all kinds of audiences out there. Yeah. So, you've identified already what you want to do, so it's going to help your writing, because you're going to pick topics that are painful, but now you've got to the other side, or you're still working through but found the funny in it. Yeah. And those are, people will come back year after year to hear what you got to say about those things.
It's exciting.
It's good stuff. And you're right at the beginning of it. Like,
yeah, that's the most exciting part.
You guys are smart. Like when I first started, I wouldn't have asked any of these questions. I'd be like, when do I get paid? Like I was so dumb at the beginning, like just trying to get.
Well, that's all because we took Rick Roberts' School of Laughs class.
That's right. So here's the $5. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
I mean, here's the $5. Thanks for setting up my Fife bet too. I hope you enjoyed that podcast. A lot of fun talking to those two guys. Man, I admire the insightfulness they have at this stage of the game, where I'm talking about barely have done 2 or 3 open mics. I mean, that's such good insight they have. They want to do things the right way, and it's a journey. There's going to be a lot of bumps on the way, but when you ask questions like they do, man, some of those bumps aren't nearly as bad and severe, and you don't get whiplash. So kudos to both Clark Davis and Jason Padgett for those great questions. I had a good time talking to them. And I guess now let me give you a couple of things that I want you to know about. One is the upcoming Christian Comedy Association Conference. You heard about the Clean Comedy Challenge. You'll hear about that again here in a second. But the Christian Comedy Association is a group of Christian comics, just what it sounds like. And we gather together once a year. This year, we happen to be in Mount Juliet, Tennessee, right outside of Nashville, where I live. And for a couple of days, we're going long and hard looking at the realities of doing clean comedy, Christian comedy, how to get booked more often. We talk about the business processes. We talk about getting your Facebook following going. All kinds of great stuff, how to write from your real life and turn it into stuff that kills on stage. And we also have some keynoters coming in like Ken Davis, Nazareth, and who else? We have Robert G. Lee. All kinds of great guys giving us very specific information. You heard Robert G. Lee on the podcast maybe 10 episodes ago talking about screenwriting and crowd work, and he's going to give a seminar on that. Just a great time. And if you are a Christian comic, I know some of you listen definitely are not, and that's your choice. But I didn't want to exclude the folks that are, and I wanted to let them know about that conference. If you're listening to this on release date, the conference is coming up this coming weekend. We actually have comedy showcases happening as part of the conference. If you just want to pop in and check out that and see what Christian comedy looks like, we have a few different locations and times. Let me go over those real quick with you right now so you know about those, and I'll be on one of the shows. Saturday, June 3rd, we'll be at Life Assembly Church, 555 Pleasant Grove Road, Mount Juliet, Tennessee. That showcase starts at 7 o'clock. Tickets are just $10, and all the money from that show goes to Jake Gullige's family. Now, Jake was part of our membership last year. He passed away just less than a couple of months ago and left behind a family. We're going to raise money to pass on to that family on Saturday, June 3rd in Mount Juliet at Life Assembly. You can check out the ChristianComedyAssociation.com website for ticket information on that. Sunday, June 4th, we're going to be at Oasis Church, which is just south of Nashville, straight down Nolensville Road, just past Bell Road if you're in the area. And that show also starts at 7 o'clock. We're going to have over a dozen comedians on that showcase. It's going to be a great show. I mean, we got Mike Williams, Taylor Mason, Alton Walker. I mean, I could go on, and I will until I look around and see where my promo is. No, but it's going to be a great show. You want to check that out. Again, you can go to ChristianComedyAssociation.com to find out about ticket prices. And then on Monday night, back at Life Assembly in Mount Juliet, our newer members compete during the day Monday for a spot to perform Monday night at our showcase. Again, that's open to the public. You don't have to attend the entire conference to have tickets to that. But if you do attend the entire conference, you have tickets to all these showcases. All that can be found at ChristianComedyAssociation.com. If you have questions about that, you can shoot me an email, schooloflaughs@gmail.com, and I'll fill you in on all that good stuff. If you are interested in attending the conference, shoot me an email at a different email address, ChristianComedyAssociation@gmail.com, and I'll make sure you get the info quickly so you can make a decision on whether you want to attend this year or not. What else can I tell you, folks? It's been a fun spring. Summer is right around the corner. And one of my goals for this summer is to close out some iTunes reviews. I need to get to 100. We're sitting at 97. I would like to read one right now from Preacher Comic. Came in on May 25th. Says, Rick gives multiple insights into the world of comedy, whether he's drawing from his decades of personal experience as a comic or interviewing another comic for their insights. You will hear helpful information when you listen. He is a gracious and authentic interviewer. His humor and kindness are apparent and enjoyable. Give it a listen, or better yet, subscribe. Hey, thank you, Preacher Comic, for leaving that iTunes review. That is review number 97. I need 3 more to hit that 100 mark. Feel free to jump in there and give me that last 2 or 3 reviews, and it'll make my whole summer. Don't forget, sign up for that insider tip sheet, schooloflaughs@gmail.com. And now one last word from one of our sponsors.
Hi, this is Leslie Norris Townsend, and I'm here to invite you to be a part of the Clean Comedy Challenge 2017 in Pasadena, California, and in Chicago, Illinois. This is our 7th year for this one-of-a-kind conference that includes 3 days of learning, writing, performing, and hanging with the pros in the comedy business. The Clean Comedy Challenge invites comedians of all levels for a chance to work on a real comedy stage with an added church venue at each location. Past attendees include Johnny W., Claiborne Cox, Marty Simpson, Andy Benango, Mike Paramore, Charlene May, and Todd Justice. So if you work clean or just want to work clean, go to www.cleancomedychallenge.com. When you register, make sure you mention the School of Laughs podcast so I know where you came from. Remember, there's no auditioning, limited space, early fee before May 1st. Come on, get on board the cleancomedychallenge.com train. Woo!
Thanks for listening to the School of Laughs podcast. If you'd like to hear more School of Laughs podcasts, you can find them on iTunes and Stitcher.com. And don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. For information on upcoming live and online classes, visit schooloflaughs.com. Until next time, stay tuned, stay focused, and stay funny.